Om Namo Bhagavate Sivanandaya. Hari Om, dear brothers and sisters. I greet you in the name of our Divine Master, Sri Swami Sivananda, and our Puja Swami Sahajananda. These are indeed very trying times, and at the same time for devotees, an ideal time for the practice of absolute faith. Today I will talk about sadhana and its practice and will frame it within the current pandemic that assails us. So I ask, did COVID usher in a new normal? Will our lives ever be the same again? These are no longer philosophical, esoteric questions. They have become practical and current. More importantly, though, I ask, how different is this period for us as disciples of a divine master? I hope that in the course of this talk, I will address some of these issues. I hope to stress the importance of regularity in sadhana, especially during this COVID-19 outbreak. In making any point, I draw from Gurudev's teachings, using Gurudev's words verbatim in most instances, for only God can say it best. At the heart of this entire talk is our simple prayer of surrender. Gurudev can determine my happiness or my sorrow, my pleasure or my pain. When we utter this with absolute conviction, then we release to Gurudev our entire beings. We accept what Gurudev chooses for us, for Gurudev knows best. My first claim is that the COVID-19 pandemic was not a coincidence. Gurudev says that God's will functions everywhere and at all times. It is unfailing. It is the only certainty that we can count on. Every action of every man, every movement in the universe, every sound ever created, everything which happens and which does not happen is propelled by the highest of forces. God's will is ever present. Without God's will, there will be nothing. We will be nothing. There is neither fate nor free will. There is only God's will. COVID-19 too, then, is God's will. So we have to introspect and ask, why would Gurudev subject us to such a pandemic? If we look all around us in this era of Kali Yuga, chaos reigns. We see the movement from righteousness to unrighteousness. Fathers rape their daughters and feel no remorse. Men beat their wives and deny it. Devotees find fault in their gurus. Animals are being slaughtered for every excuse. Locally, we should not mix freely. Swamiji said so many times, yet we see men and women unhesitatingly hug and conduct long conversations in the ashram. So now we cannot touch, let alone talk to each other. The lesson is clear. We shall talk about this lesson in a short while. Gurudev also says that this world is a great school. It is for thy education. Be wise. Utilize all opportunities to the best possible advantage. Just as the whole universe is governed by the laws of physics and mathematics, so also are the functions of the body governed by the immutable laws of health and hygiene. When these laws are disregarded, disease and disharmony result. Swami Sivananda laid the responsibility for health and disease squarely on the individual. Man is the only breaker of laws and violator of rules in the universe. Of course, he acknowledged that other factors such as heredity and karma also played a part in shaping the structural weaknesses which give rise to different forms of disease. However, the actual manifestation of the disease itself is not simply a random attack on a hapless victim, but rather the summing up of the results of lifelong violations of the laws of life. What does this all mean? If we do not listen to the words of our masters, then calamities such as these will come to force us to do as they have taught us. Now we greet with palms folded together. We stand far apart. Distance is our saving grace. What does distance bring? It brings the opportunity for solitude, a time for reflection on learning, a time for sadhana. But COVID-19 is not altogether very bad. Gurudev says that we should embrace calamities as a gift from God and know that there is a reason for the affliction that assails all of us. It is true that what is meant to happen will happen, but it won't happen a second earlier or a second later. God's time is not dependent on our clocks. God's time is precise. So, we have no reason to fear when Gurudev is near. We have the grace of one of the greatest gurus ever. Gurudev says that you can notice the Lord's grace in every inch of his creation. But Gurudev qualifies this. Lord's grace will descend in proportion to the degree of surrender. The more the surrender, the more the grace. Mother Meera of the Sri Aurobindo Ashram also provided us with an assurance when she stated that at the very moment when everything seems to go from bad to worse, it is then that we must make a supreme act of faith and know that the grace will never fail us. You should not sit idly and say, Lord's grace will do everything for me. Why should I do any sadhana? This is the wrong attitude. God helps those who help themselves. God's grace will descend on those persons only who exert. You cannot expect the Lord to do self-surrender for you. You would not expect your teacher to write your examinations, would you? Strive, plod, persevere. The Lord will shower his grace upon you. Gurudev tells us how, by discovering the inner fountain of peace, you can enjoy peace and happiness in all conditions. Anyone who has seen Gurudev at close quarters when his own body was assailed by illness would have noticed the miracle of making a miserable condition yield joy. Pain gave rise to humor, and of converting suffering and everything that followed his suffering into service of humanity. Gurudev further says that one should raise oneself. Only grace helps one to raise oneself. Everybody should work out his own salvation. Only when you put in the effort, the grace will come. A professor will not answer the questions for you in an examination and make you pass. You have to study hard yourself. Mirabai abandoned everything. She renounced kingdom, husband, relatives, friends and property. She remembered the Lord Krishna all day and night. She shed tears of prem. She sang his praise with single-minded devotion. She gave up food. Her body got emaciated. Her mind was ever absorbed in Lord Krishna. Only then did Lord Krishna shower his grace upon her. So, we have to do the work ourselves. So, how does all of what I have to say relate to this COVID-19 pandemic? Gurudev in the book Karmas and Diseases says, the diseases we suffer from the births we get here on earth are all products of actions done by us in previous times. Every action has its reaction, and no action goes unrewarded in a suitable manner. Evil actions do not go without their bitter effects upon the doer. Gurudev gives many pitiable conditions of life which man has to live in due to his careless, sinful deeds. Swami Sivananda unfailingly prescribed japa to all his patients. He had perfect faith in the name of the Lord as an infallible panacea and cure all for all diseases, including Adi Vyadi, the disease of birth and death. Vyadi refers to diseases, and Adi Vyadi refers to diseases of the mind. Gurudev reminded everyone that there is a divine hand behind all cures and that the only doctor is the Lord. No matter what condition the patient was in, he prescribed this most powerful pati, Namapati, for 2-hour periods, morning and night. It electrifies, regenerates, vivifies and energizes all the cells, tissues and nerves of the body. Swamiji also stressed the divine name. Swamiji said that the whole aim, I give it to you in a nutshell, is to try to make the divine name as continuous as possible, to repeat it continuously. That is all the sadhana that we have to do. I'll repeat that. The whole purpose of yoga is to remember God. Gurudev had practiced very intense sadhana, which may have no parallel in modern times. He had practiced to perfection sadhana in various parts of yoga. Through his most intense sadhana, Gurudev attained the supreme bliss, unalloyed joy, and eternal happiness. This makes Gurudev's instructions on sadhana all the more important. So Gurudev says, now is the time for you to start a spiritual life. Start sadhana this very second, not tomorrow. Sadhana is any practice to steady the wandering mind and to fix it on God. Introspect. Look within. Try to remove your defects. This is the real sadhana. This is the most difficult sadhana. You will have to do it at any cost. You must have a pure mind if you want to realize the self. Drive off all the negative thoughts. Become positive always. Mind is compared to a garden. Just as you can cultivate good flowers and fruits in a garden by plowing and manuring the land and removing the weeds and thorns and watering the plants and trees, so also you can cultivate the flower of devotion in the garden of your mind by removing the impurities of the mind, such as lust, anger, greed, delusion, and pride, and watering it with divine thoughts. When the garden is clean, when there are no weeds and thorns, you can get good fruits. So also, when the mind is pure, the mind is free from lust, anger, etc., you can have the fruit of deep meditation. Get ready for the Holy Communion with God. Start japa, kirtan, meditation, inquiry. Spiritualize all your activities. This is very important. Have satsang, meditate, inquire, who am I? The ignorance will vanish. Climb steadily and reach the peak of wisdom by practicing intense sadhana. The two obstacles to self-realization are egoism and desire. Egoism is the most dangerous weakness of man. It brings downfall of the spiritual aspirants. The moment egoism enters, there will be immediate blocking of the free flow of the divine energy. Therefore, slay this egoism. We see this happening in our midst. In the Amrita Gita, Gurudev says, regularity in japa sadhana is most essential. Do constant sadhana. Keep your mind always busy in doing japa, concentration, meditation, study of religious books, satsang, or in doing something useful. Regularity in sadhana is of paramount importance. Remember this point always. May you lead a contented and happy life, singing the Lord's name at all times by doing selfless service, sharing what you have with others, and by regular japa and meditation. Keep a balanced mind always. Be cheerful and happy. Drive the feeling of depression and gloom at once by inquiry, singing divine songs, prayers, chanting of Om, pranayama, a brisk walk in the open air, and thinking of the opposite quality, namely the feeling of joy. You will be happy. Apply yourself diligently to yoga. Employ your skill and promptness. Do not become a fatalist, especially in this period. Stand like a lion, exert, aspire. You will attain independence. Steady the mind, fix it on the Lord, be persevering. This is the real sadhana. Be regular in your sadhana. Gurudev implores us not to complain that there is no time for sadhana. Reduce sleep and unnecessary talk. Get up at 4 a.m. There is inner unfolding from level to level in your spiritual experience. Wait patiently. Most people do not recognize the value of time till they hear the gates of death. The Master warns us that death exists side by side with birth. A baby is born, a moment passes, 2 moments pass, 3, 4. With each passing moment, the baby ages. Its life is cut short, and it is brought nearer to its death. The march towards death begins with birth. So I ask, why do we fear disease and death if the Master so wills it? Life is a relentless march from birth to death. It is relentless because time does not stop. The clock does not cease to tick. Time consumes life. No one can escape it. It is impossible for anyone to alter the lifespan of an individual by so much as a split second. He who recognizes this fact is a wise man, for he will so order his life that not a moment is wasted and every moment is well spent in sadhana, in spiritual striving, in a thrust towards God. Cling fast to the faith in the divinity. You will attain supreme peace and eternal happiness. Be always cheerful and smile away your worries. Follow the correct principles of living. Be temperate in eating, drinking, sleeping, amusement, and in all other things. Overcome all your unfavorable circumstances. Have courage, be bold, never despair. You will succeed. There is nothing in the world which cannot be overcome with the effort. And how can this be done? Wake up now. Open your eyes, become virtuous, do good actions, sing God's name, have constant satsang, purify, concentrate, meditate. You will realize the goal. Cultivate a very strong faith in God. Faith is the gateway to God. Faith can work wonders. Always act with faith and determination. Be firm in your resolve and fiery in your determination. Remember the saints and sages. Do prayer, japa, kirtan regularly. Have mental contact with your guru. Read religious books like Gita, Ramayana, and Bhagavatam. These will sow the seed of faith and increase it till it becomes quite firm and unshakable. The goal of life is God realization. And life is faith and illumination. Faith is an important qualification for an aspirant. No faith, no devotion. Meditate, realize Him intuitively this very second and enjoy the bliss of the self. All of this leads to complete self-surrender to God. Self-surrender is a safe means of God realization. Surrender yourself and all your belongings at the feet of Gurudev. Live a life of godliness. Think that nothing is yours and that everything belongs to God. This is surrender to God. Give the power of attorney to Gurudev. Let him do whatever he wants. You will have no worry and no anxiety. You will be peaceful. Surrender contains intense love and faith. It must be complete. The entire being must be surrendered to the Lord. Surrender completely. After surrendering to the Lord, you should not grumble and fret when any trouble comes, like our current pandemic. You should not complain to the Lord, "Oh Lord, you have no eyes, you have no compassion." If you complain, then there is no meaning in your surrender. Through surrender, the devotee immerses himself into the eternal essence. You can endear yourself to the Lord only by self-surrender. The more the surrender, the more the grace. In difficulties and struggles, God will give you the strength and inner peace to bear them. This is His grace. Constant remembrance of the Lord, constant recitation of His name will fill your heart with sattva, an immense strength and peace to face the most trying conditions with perfect calmness and serenity. Have perfect trust in God. Surrender to Him. Place yourself in His loving care. Do this with your whole heart and mind, with perfect confidence and faith. Worry not about your future, about money, about your health. He will take care of you. You will have plenty. You will have immense strength and wonderful health. Even if you don't, the Lord will take care of you. Remember, for those who surrender, Gurudev will not give you what you want. You will only get what you need. Be grateful for what you get. Be grateful for COVID, for COVID pushed us into action. We chanted more. We worshipped more. We observed silence more. We looked inward more. We spoke less. We interacted less. All of this came with grace. Gurudev says that A guru is able to transmit the spiritual power to his disciples. A certain spiritual vibration is actually transferred to the mind of the disciple. Grace must be pouring onto us at the moment. Gurudev says that you should daily lay bare to your guru the secrets of your heart. The more you do so, the more he will help you in the struggle against all problems. The aspirant, before he desires the grace of the master, should deserve it. The supply of divine grace comes only when he is fit to receive it. Guru's grace descends upon those who feel utterly humble and faithful to him. The aspirant has to be an embodiment of humility and meekness. Faith is confidence and trust in Guru. The disciple who has faith in the Guru argues not, thinks not, and reasons not. He simply obeys, and obeys. If you disagree with the work done for the Guru, let it be known and then offer it to the Guru. The Guru knows best. Gurudev in the book May I Answer That says that belief in God is an indispensable requisite for every human being. Owing to the force of ignorance, pain appears as pleasure. The world is full of miseries, troubles, difficulties, and tribulations. We have to free ourselves from birth, death, old age, disease, and grief. This can be done only by faith in God. There is no other way. Money and power cannot give us real happiness. Even if we exercise power over the whole world, we cannot be free from care, worry, anxiety, fear, and disappointment. It is only faith in God and the consequent God realization through meditation that can give us real, eternal happiness and free us from all kinds of fear and worries which torment us at every moment. Prayer elevates the mind. It fills the mind with purity. It is associated with the praise of God. It keeps the mind in tune with God. Prayer can reach a realm where reason dare not enter. Prayer can work miracles. Prayer frees the devotee from the fear of death. It makes him feel nearer to God. It makes him feel the divine presence everywhere. Prayer has a tremendous influence. If the prayer is sincere and if it proceeds from the bottom of your heart, it will at once melt the heart of the Lord. Sri Krishna had to run barefooted from Dwaraka on hearing the heartfelt prayer of Draupadi. Lord Hari, the mighty ruler of this universe, apologized before Prahlada for coming a little late when the latter prayed. How merciful and loving is the Lord. Say even once from the bottom of your heart, O Lord, I am thine. Thy will be done. Have mercy on me. I am thy servant and devotee. Forgive me, guide me, protect me. Your prayer is once heard and responded to. Do this daily. Do this daily in the battle of life. What is COVID compared to the power of the Lord? God helps even a thief or robber when he prays. Get up early in the morning and repeat some prayers for getting mental and physical purity. Pray in any manner you like. Become as simple as a child. Freely open the chambers of your heart. Pray fervently right now, from this very second. Do not delay, friend. Today is your own, that tomorrow may never come. This is perhaps the most important prayer at this point. We cannot tell what is in store for us. COVID has arrived like a Ravana, and all of us are quite helpless, and yet this virus is a tiny, non-living thing. So we pray, O Lord, I do not know what I should ask thee. Thou only knowest what I need. I surrender myself unto thee. I open my heart unto thee. Thou art merciful and omniscient. Thou knowest the interior of my heart. Let me accomplish thy will. Make me a fit instrument for thy unhampered play, prostrations unto thee. A devotee should resign himself to God. He forgets all about the world and thinks of nothing else but God alone, who would surely save him and who alone would be able to help and guide him. He communes his will with God's and acts as per his guidance. There is no sense of individuality or doership in him. He knows that God's will is his will and that he must act up to it. Does that mean that he is devoid of self-effort? Certainly not, for he negates himself and resigns himself to the Lord. To him flows the divine grace instantly. As I end this talk, I assure all that our Master was a physician. Let us call for him every minute, not to protect us alone, but to protect the entire world. Gurudev can do this in a flash if our calls are genuine and with absolute power. Let us try this calling sadhana. We will call Gurudev in the morning, during the day, in the night, during every waking moment. Gurudev never sleeps. Our worries and fears must be placed at Gurudev's holy feet. That is where it belongs. Gurudev says to us in May, I answer that. When the aspirant prostrates at the feet, it signifies that everything without the least reservation is surrendered at the feet of the Guru. Like children, we must submit to Gurudev. Let go and let God take control. Let go and let Gurudev guide and protect us. Once Gurudev holds our hands, he would never let go. How reassuring this is. Swami Chidananda reaffirms this. You are never alone, even for a split second of time. You are always under the gracious protecting presence of your Guru. The Guru never leaves the soul he has called. He walks with you when you walk. He rests with you when you rest. He broods over you while you slumber. He is the one being who is unfailing. He is the one being who is eternally yours and always with you. Gurudev says that one needs physical, mental, and inner spiritual strength at all times. One requires this inner strength, especially during the time of disturbance, agitation, and confusion. In reality, you are the soul. Repeat the Lord's invincible name at all times with faith and devotion. This will give you strength. Gurudev also says that thinking of disease constantly will intensify it. Feel always, I am healthy in body and in mind. So we must start the day with God, end the day with God, live the day with God. That is the way to God. Now call for Gurudev. He will come. I know he will come because Swamiji said so. I think not of COVID. For if it comes, then it is Gurudev's will. And I surrender my soul to Gurudev's will. You too must surrender your will. Continue your sadhana in earnest. What will come, will come. Be careful and always remember Gurudev. Gurudev can determine my happiness or my sorrow, my pleasure or my pain. If Gurudev decides your happiness or your pleasure, then be grateful. If Gurudev gives you sorrow and pain, still be grateful. Gurudev knows best. Never for a moment think that you know better. Do what you think is right and then offer it like a child to Gurudev. Keep safe and Gurudev bless you all. Om Namo Bhagavate Sivanandaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Our presentation for the August Yoga Camp is entitled Swami Shivananda's Literary Charity to the World. I cannot stop writing. I will write till I become blind. If I become blind, I will dictate and somebody will write for me. Thus, I will continue my mission of dissemination of spiritual knowledge till the end of my life. These are the words of our Divine Master, Sri Swami Shivananda. This is the intense passion that our Divine Master had for sharing spiritual knowledge to all, not only in India, but to all parts of the world. About charity, the Master himself wrote in Bliss Divine, and I quote, "Sharing generates cosmic love. Sharing purifies the heart. The best form of charity is the charity of knowledge, unquote. It is in this spirit that the Master gave thousands of books free of charge to the seekers world over. Because of his unlimited generosity in various forms of charity, he was often called Givananda. The versatile genius of the Master was burning with pure passion to spread the message of our ancient Hindu Dharma, to sow seeds of peace, harmony and goodwill. His prolific pen captured the essence of all scriptures. He devoted his time to promoting Hinduism, to unraveling the mysteries of the mind, and he dealt exhaustively on the various yogas and on health and diet. The Master's literature has saved countless persons from cultural and spiritual bankruptcy and filled them with life-giving ideals and a higher purpose in life. Pujya Swami Sahajananda often reminded us that there is a great Shakti in the writings of Swami Shivananda, because he was not only practicing what he preached, but also because Mother Saraswati glitters in his writings. The power in these books have a protecting effect, and it is for this reason that Pujya Swamiji asked us to carry these books in our cars. If an editor of a magazine asked for one article, the Master sent 4 or 5. He would say, even if they do not publish all, at least some of the editorial staff of selection will go through them. I am satisfied even if one person reads the articles. What compassion! Among the many magazines to which the Master continued there were some which carried some undesirable reading material. Critics remarked, why should Swami Shivananda send articles to magazines containing advertisements on sex matters? This is not good. The Master replied, I will continue to send articles to such papers first. The minds of those who go through sex matters will be purified by going through spiritual matters, unquote. And so from 1931, his powerful spiritual lessons began to appear regularly in its pages. Thousands turned into avid readers of the Master's articles and became his students and devotees. Former President of India, the late Dr. Abdul Kalam says, and I quote, I have read Sivananda's books and they have influenced my attitude to a great extent, especially his book Thought Power. I am a fan of Shivananda's simple and uncomplicated style of writing. After his discourse on the Bhagavad Gita every evening, normally he would randomly select 2 people from a crowd for an interview. I was one of the 2 selected. I don't know what made him select me. He called me to his chamber, then looked at me and said in Tamil, Umperina, what is your name? Abdul Kalam, I replied. Why are you so sad? He asked. This great one, this chosen one, this godly person knew of my sorrow. I replied, Swamiji, I will tell you the facts. I had come from an interview with the Air Force Selection Board and I was not selected to be a pilot, unquote. Swami Shivananda looked at me. I was such a small fellow in front of him. Then he opened the Bhagavad Gita to the 11th chapter, the Vishwarup Darshan, in which Lord Krishna appears in front of Arjuna in all his forms. Arjuna tells Krishna he is afraid of fighting in the Kurukshetra war. Krishna tells him, defeat the defeatist tendency. Swami Shivananda asked me to repeat this statement defeat the defeatist tendency 3 times. I repeated it 3 times, and I was cheered up. He then gave me 20 of his books published in Tamil and English. It was such a great experience. So friends, I will never forget this incident in my life. Swami Shivananda's mantra, defeat the defeatist tendency, always comes to me whenever I am in trouble. The Master wrote for this day and age. He understood the ills that plague this modern world, and he set about giving effective solutions. Stress is one of the foremost ills of this present age, and so, through Puja Swami Sahajananda, the Master revealed the cures for stress in the Peace series. Puja Swamiji said that as he was typesetting this series, the knowledge came from above and was pouring into his head. It was as if a hole was in his head as the knowledge came down. So clearly this knowledge came from God, and it will be worth our while to read these precious inspirational sayings again and again. Perhaps at bedtime, to allow the subconscious mind to work actively whilst the reader is asleep. Many criticize the Master for writing in English. Sri Anantanarayan in From Mad to God-Man states, and I quote, half a century ago, in India, the glamour of Western civilization had begun to play upon the mind of the then generation, particularly the middle-class section, who were gradually drawn towards what looked like a superior culture of the sophisticated Westerner. It was a critical period when sons of the soil turned up their noses at their own mother culture. This invasion of alien ideology was helped by a soulless education introduced by the ruling British class in India's schools and colleges. It needed the powerful writings of the God-man Shivananda to turn the minds of the Indian youth back to the glory of their own tradition and culture. Unquote. One such case is that of Samananda, a modern Hindu youth who tells his story, and I quote, born in an Orthodox family in South India, I was drawn very early in my boyhood to the sweet Sanskrit hymns of Shankara, which my mother recited daily. But later, a bit of college education completely dislodged me from the rock of my faith, setting me wandering in a windless wilderness of wasteful atheism. But one book that I read and one portrait that I saw brought about the change. The book and the portrait were those of Swami Shivananda, the saint of Ananda Kutir. It was in 1934, unquote. Like Samananda, many were the modern Indian youth who were reclaimed by the Master's writings. The Master's message went worldwide. His literature went like a spiritual tsunami, and it stormed many parts of the world. Dr. R.T. Werther of Perth had been a seeker for many years. He had gone through 2 churches. He came in touch with the Master. The Master's books and loving letters drew him to Rishikesh. It was Christmas time, and there were celebrations at the ashram. Dr. Werther later spoke of it as the greatest Christmas experience of his long life, and went on to add, and I quote, there, and only there, I found the peace which comes when all your inner conflicts are resolved. Yes, only there I found real Christianity, which I did not find in our Western world. Unquote. Some of the most influential people of our times had come into contact with our Master's literature. The political prisoners at Robben Island, including Dr. Nelson Mandela, had received books such as Light, power and wisdom from our press here in Durban. A few years ago, a high-ranking military official involved in the Arab-Israeli peace initiatives requested copies of our peace series and other books. Like this, many eminent statesmen and countless other souls around the globe, in search of spiritual guidance and solace, found their answers in our Master's writings. Now, how do we pay our gratitude to our Divine Master for the awe-inspiring tapas he did, for the legacy he left behind? Pujya Swamiji himself said that the best way to do this is to follow in the noble footsteps of the Master. The best way is to show gratitude for the bountiful good gifts he had showered upon this world. It is to implement his teachings into our divine life, into our daily lives. We can also show gratitude by distributing his books, by selling his books, and by giving them out to others as gifts, so that they too can tread the path of spirituality in earnest. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.